I think I think Jadeja's value was first realized by Shane
Shane Warne.
Warne.
Yeah,
Yeah,
back in Rajasthan,
2008.
two
I
thousand nine.
Shenwan.
I think Jadeja said thank you to him today. I think in the press
Yeah,
conference.
he did. He said like he gave me the platform for my career,
Hmm.
and yeah,
And
great
even Bhogle
segue.
tweeted that in the 2008 first IPL, Shane Warne had many times mentioned it to Bhogle that
Yeah,
Jadeja is a future bright star.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I don't know where you were when you actually first heard. I mean, these are like difficult moments, right? So
yeah,
it stays with me. I still remember exactly where I was, and I was watching something on Netflix, and then this thing popped in where all of my friends started sending WhatsApp messages saying Shane Warne passed away, and I was like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
I, I couldn't believe, and I was with my wife, and she was like, "What happened to you? Like, why? What happened to you?" Like, I was just completely and utter in shock. At 52, is gone. Is
I'm with you, man.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
it's that sinking feeling, right? Like you kind of
Like,
just
nothing is
drop,
true anymore.
No.
right? And it's
Yeah,
like you just I feel like I found that out in the morning at 7, and then it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just had not done any work. It was just like I was in a completely different zone, right?
Mm.
Like just trying to understand what the heck, what
yeah,
happened.
I mean,
yeah,
same thing happened with me on Thursday night while going to bed. The last thing I read on the Twitter was Shane Warne's response to Rod Marsh's death.
passing. Yeah,
And he
yeah,
tweeted that, hey, Rod Marsh was such a good
yeah,
guy,
Yeah.
especially with the youngsters and all that. That was the last tweet I read, and I went to bed. And morning, I get up, my usual habit, I grab my phone, and I see Rohan's message on our WhatsApp group that Shane Mohan has passed away. And I was like, no, he must be wrong. He must have read
yeah,
Rod Marsh passed away, and he must have tweeted wrong thing. And then I look, and I'm like, oh man, Shane Mohan is gone.
I had a
yeah,
similar reaction when another Australian who looked very much like Shane Warne, Steve Irwin. Do you guys remember him?
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
crocodile.
With the manta ray, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or the stingray.
Yeah,
The stingray killed him.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He passed away with a stingray, and I just kept
Yeah,
like they were two similar characters, larger than life, and like
Mhm.
you walk in and you had to look at them, right? Because when they spoke, like Shane Warne, to be honest, when he was a player, he was a bowler, he was an opponent, and I was programmed to not like him because he was such a great
Yeah.
bowler that you wanted him to do badly because invariably it was against India, so you wanted Sachin to sweep him for a six. You wanted uh, him not to do well, but I watched the very first IPL, the 2008 IPL, I think it was, and everybody watched. Everyone watched every game. It was so new, and it was clear that this was a new dimension of Shane Warne that
Yeah.
was more in a
Captain.
player mentor kind of a capacity. After that, he basically kind of phased himself out anyway because it was getting too fast and not his cup of tea. But he retained an involvement in the IPL. I think he still owned some portion of Rajasthan Royals,
5%, 5%.
5%. So I think his kid's future is more than assured with his 5%.
hmm,
And the fact that even latterly for the last 10 years he has not been a player, but when he spoke he had a conviction and he could feel the intelligence coming through. Like when he spoke
yeah,
about some tactics, he said,
Mhm.
okay, I think it was for Pujara. I think it was for Pujara, yes. And Nathan Lyon, like he was screaming, why do you not put a short leg? And then after there's a
What
break,
is big
and then
test?
there was a short leg. So that kind of stopped Pujara from dancing down the track and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just makes
yeah,
me think that uh, the reason why the Australian team of the yesteryears was so successful because you had people like him
Yeah.
uh, in the leadership group, and is just
hmm,
perfect cricketer. I mean, super
yeah,
sad,
yeah.
very sad. I
I
can't
think
say much more.
at least from reading a lot of these, tributes and posts about him, and also as someone who's definitely come to watch, enjoy, and love the game a lot more in my later years than in my younger years. I didn't really watch a lot, when I was younger, so I didn't get to see him play live, whatever. But I think what I came to understand about him is just like how genuine of a character he was, both like as a cricketer, but also just like as an individual, right? And his
Yeah,
love for the game
yeah.
like it went past just being a player or being the star player, which I'm sure for so many people, especially getting all that money, that fame, that attention, it changes you. But he still kind of stuck to his roots, would always help younger people out, right? Spin bowlers. Like I read during the 2018 series, the India Australia series, he went while Kuldeep was practicing in the nets. Every time he would walk by and talk to him a little bit. And Kuldeep would just like listen. And Kuldeep last match ends up taking 5 wickets, right? And he's like, this is all thanks to Shane Warne. And Shane Warne's, and this is Harsha telling the story. And Shane Warne's like, very happy, very like cheerful. But like that's just one example of them, probably the many times, that he's just like stopped to have conversations with
And
people.
he's not done for the camera.
Exactly. It's
No,
just for the love of the game, just because he
yeah,
knows this person can
yeah.
benefit from this and he wants to see them succeed. And that's something I think is it's not common in everybody, right? A lot of people are very selfish, and especially at that level. Uh,
Wh- What stood out for me also was a lot of superstars, and India has had a lot of superstars, and they are very squeaky clean in their image, and it's
yeah.
a very cultured, curated image. Like it's very
Mhm.
manufactured sometimes. That you know that you cannot be this bland, right? But anyway, they have to be. But Shane Warne was exactly the opposite of that.
Live
Like
life king size.
live life king size, and he got caught living life king size several times.
Yeah,
And he's
Yeah.
like, so what?
so
This is who I am, and this is what.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
he was a
that's
maverick.
something about Shane Warne, right? Like there's some cricketers in the world, you just, even if you're the opposing team player, you just admire for the skill you bring to the game, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Like
Right.
with
Right.
yes.
Right. Right.
Shane
Right.
Warne, you knew that he was an Australian, he used to play hard, but he never crossed the line. I mean, the
no,
only time I remember him crossing the line was against the Marlon Samuels in a
Yeah.
BBL game,
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
right?
That
That
was
was
in
But
weird.
BBL.
besides that, he was a great competitor, but the skill that he brought to that cricket pitch, it was just phenomenal against
That's why.
India,
Yeah.
against England.
I mean,
Like
look at some of his best
There was
friends.
this.
Some of
nobody
his
could
best
do
friends
what he
were
did.
Brian Lara, Sachin Tendulkar, Kevin Peterson. These are all not Australians. These are opponents, but they
And
respected
Yeah,
him.
and more
it came from a
importantly,
place of respect.
Yeah,
yeah, and more importantly, I feel like one of the biggest reasons why Sachin is considered or revered is because of the testimony that Shane Warne gave.
yeah.
Shane Warne was the guy who kind of talked to Sir Don Bradman that, okay, whatever, right? Of course, Don Bradman looked at Sachin, but it was Shane Warne that went with Sachin to Mr. Don
Yes,
Bradman's
yes,
house,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
You're right.
right?
You're right. You're right.
So
1998.
if you think about it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Sachin is great, and Sachin would have got the adulation that he's got, richly deserved. But because Shane once said, okay, this guy comes in my nightmares, whatever, right? It just bumps up the story even way
Yeah, it hyped
further,
up
right?
Sachin. Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Indians
Yeah.
are emotional, so we even get onto the bandwagon like, yeah, yeah, Sachin, 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 right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like, and
Mm.
on the microphone, I just loved him. Like there was
Yeah.
nothing that everything he uttered from his mouth was just pinpoint and
Yeah, just
so
gems.
precise.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Nuggets of
no,
gold.
precise.
forget the microphone. If you go research tweets of Shane Warne when Sachin was in from 195 to 200 in his first or the only ODI double hundred, Shane Warne is constantly tweeting and encouraging. Come on, Sachin, come on! I need you to get this 200. I mean, it's like a
Yeah, but
Sachin
maybe
fan.
that was because he had money on Sachin getting it.
Well, whatever it is,
Shane Warne
right?
is
But
famous for that.
yeah, yeah. But
Uh,
you know,
I think with Shane Warne, the thing that really stands out is he was one of the very few people where when he came on to bowl against, especially against India, I would have a fear in my heart that
yeah,
Yeah.
something's going to happen and he's going to get somebody out. I especially
yeah.
didn't trust uh, in test matches because there was a lot of time and stuff like that, right?
yeah.
So I think that is a mark of ultimate respect, that if you fear an opponent that is going to get your favorite player out, then
Yeah.
I think there's nothing
Especially
Yeah.
better than
after
that.
two back-to-back World Cup semi-finals, the 96 and 99, when Shane Warne single-handedly turned that over. when
Yeah.
Australia didn't have many runs on the board, but just
Yeah.
with the ball, he turned the two semifinals over.
I
Right?
think one
That
I
against
was
mean,
South
madness.
Africa,
Sri
right?
Lanka has pretty much
Yeah, West
brought
Indies and South
the
Africa.
flipper, right? Nobody knew what a flipper was until Shane Warne introduced it to the
Yeah.
world.
That's true.
Well,
Like
actually,
no
what
one had an idea.
Shane Warne's flipper was Anil Kumle's stock ball. Just that he
Yeah,
couldn't turn it.
Yeah, because Kumble started as a fast bowler, right? In his college days, he started as a fast bowler, and then converted himself into a spinner.
Yeah, he was bowling leg cutters then. He's not leg
Yeah,
spinner.
yeah.
crazy,
One
Uh,
thing,
crazy.
I don't know if you've seen this video of Shane Warne. I think this is while he was playing in the Big Bash League in Australia. Uh, he has a microphone on. He's bowling. He has one of the microphones on, and he's saying. I think at the other end there's Brendan McCullum, and he's talking basically. He's like, "Yeah, this is what I'm gonna bowl, and this is how I'm gonna get him out." Next ball does exactly that, gets him out, and he's done that
Yeah,
on
yeah.
several occasions too.
Yes,
That's not like
yes.
the only time.
Remember
So I,
that Basat Ali wicket? Remember that last ball of the day. So last ball of the day, Basat Ali is batting. Shane Warne doesn't do anything special. All he does, he goes to bowl, then he stops, and then he calls Ian Healy, and they have a conversation. Ian Healy goes back, and Basat Ali gets bowled behind his leg. And at the end of the day, somebody asked Ian Healy, what did Shane Warne say? He's like, he didn't say anything. He just called me. And so Basat Ali got into this defensive mode. Oh man, they're planning something. So he was just very tentative. And Shane Warne just bowled a simple leg spinner on the leg stump, went behind his legs and bowled. That's it.
So many
Fine.
times, not just once. Like
Yeah.
so
yeah,
many times, he's got
Finally.
people behind the legs, right?
the
It
ball of the
just
century
that
to
skill.
Oh,
Alex
that
Stewart, right?
was a 90-degree turn, man.
Ridiculous. I mean, like,
Good thing he
Mike getting
brought the
it
ball
took
of
him 5 seconds to realize that he had got clean bowled.
the ball of the century reminds me of something that is kind of often overlooked for Shane Warne. That Indian spinners get a lot of wickets. You bowl half of your overs in India, so you bowl a friendly pitches. But most of his wickets came at home or England because that's what they played the most. So they're not
Mhm.
necessarily the most spin. In fact, his record in India is actually not that great. But on pitches where you would think, hey, let's drop Anil Kumble or let's not play Ravi
Yes.
Ashwin,
Yeah.
he was like you could never ever think of dropping
No.
in one. He would turn the ball. No, new ball, old ball doesn't matter. He'll turn it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And I think
mean,
also
and
like,
ball of the century, people might think ball of the century was just a one-time thing. He did that to a right-hander, Mike Getting, pitched outside the. He repeated that few ashes later to a left-hander English batsman, and he thought he had everything covered. He goes way outside the off stump, covers, and then the ball takes his leg stump.
Yeah, yeah.
If you so yesterday after hearing the news, I was like just you know consuming Shane Warne content on YouTube, right?
yeah,
I
And I
yeah,
avoided
was
yeah.
that
like,
because I would get very emotional otherwise.
Yeah.
I was
No, I
watching the
feel the
ball
same
of the
thing.
century and I was trying to show it to my wife, and if you guys like slow mo that thing,
Yeah.
like the loop that it gets after it
Yeah.
before it just pitches, it moves, dude. It
Yeah.
moves in the air. It's just
It's like a swinging ball.
crazy.
It's like a swinging ball.
Like
No, he was
yeah, it's like
ridiculous.
swings
Yeah.
pretty much. Like it's on the radar. It's gonna like pitch on the middle stump, and then suddenly it goes on the leg stump. It's just crazy. Yeah,
I think another thing is also like he had like two different phases of his career, right? He had the beginning phase where he came on the scene, taking everything by storm, which uh, at the time too, right? Like the pressure that it put on other sides to be like, oh, we need to find a leg spinner now, especially in Test cricket where that was not a common thing. Now every team is scrambling to find their next leg spinner because Shane Warne did that, right? And then he had this shoulder surgery. He was like banned for a year because of drugs or whatever,
Diuretic.
and then
Yeah.
and then he came back. 3 years he played, and he took like 300 wickets.
No, in the
Mm,
series that he came back right after that 1 year ban in Sri Lanka, three test matches, he took 25 wickets. Three
His
test
last
matches, not a five test match series, three test matches.
his last Ashes series, I think he took 40 wickets for
Yeah.
19. For 19. And they still lost that series, which is ridiculous. But like, yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
data
He
always.
was his batting was also good in that 2005 Ashes, but they still lost it.
Is that the one where he got out of
although
99?
although when it was
Yeah, he was
amazing to
out on
see
99.
in one getting out because he used to always give the same expression that Virat Kohli gives after getting out. Like if you remember Harbhajan's hat trick
Hat
wicket,
trick. Yeah,
that
Shane
was
Warne was
Shane
like,
Warne.
what? What
And
happened?
Shane
What
was
happened?
like, "What the heck? Why are you guys all
It was a
shouting right
clear
now?"
edge, but Shane Warne is like, what?
Amol, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, I think uh,
No,
the
I was
other
just saying
thing.
that Shenwan and Virat Kohli have the same expression that says ये नहीं हो सकता, ये मेरे साथ क्यों हो रहा है?
Yeah, but
Ridiculous.
I mean, few people say that he was the not just the greatest Australian captain that never played, whatever, but the greatest captain of all time that never was a captain. You guys
And he
agree?
showed that in the 2008 IPL, right?
He was also captain for, I think, Hampshire. He played for like county in
Maybe.
England.
But 2008 IPL, Rajasthan had no star except for
Yeah,
him, no other star. And under the radar, that team goes to the final and beats Mahendra Singh Dhoni's team. That was awesome.
Yes.
that is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No,
What do you guys think of? We only want to talk about. So I'll narrate a 10-minute, you know, incident that I had with Shane Warne. So during the 2015 Cricket All Stars, uh, these were the initial days of whatever I was my involvement in cricket, and I had the wonderful opportunity of being part of the organizing team of that particular event in the US. Right, so I was in Houston, New York, and LA, right? But in Houston, I remember like we were just kind of arranging things. We were, like in the vicinity, right? I was not like uh, anybody in there. I was just a fly on the wall. So I remember like he was signing cricket bats, okay, and I happened to just ask him. I was like, because John Buchanan was like really, really the Australian coach that time, and I was like, what do you think about John Buchanan? I didn't know the history he had with John Buchanan, right? I was like, mate, don't even mention about that guy's name. Like he got so pissed off about that entire thing, and I was like, I was shell shocked because like fuck. First, I've opened my mouth in front of Shane Warne, and now he's pissed off at me. You know, like
You did
that's
no
the worst.
research.
Yeah, exactly, right. But I mean, such a wonderful, like whatever, I asked him for a picture. It was like really, really nice, really nice. And there's people who kind of shove you off at times where like, yeah, yeah, just take a
yeah,
picture. He was very warm. He was like he gave his time to everyone, huh? Not just people who were part of it, even fans afterwards also. He was waiting there all the entire time. So just phenomenal person, right?
yeah.
That you kind of came across.
No, he was a mastermind. Just like the cricketing, I think that's the biggest thing that we lose with his passing is like his knowledge, his intuition, like all the experiences that he's had and the stories that he'd be able to tell, like how he set batsmen up, how he set his fields, all that stuff. That's no longer something he's able to share with the world, and uh,
I,
the world is
you
definitely
bring you bring up a good point, right? Because actually last week we talked about Sachin and not interviews. Now this is a guy you want to listen to him talk,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
every time, I mean, there's like three masterclass videos on YouTube. Everyone should watch them. Okay,
Yes,
Shane Warne
yes,
talking about the art of spin, and
yes.
in every bloody video he's talking about different things, and you're like, wow, this guy has like got
amazing,
a treasure chest of spin
truly
bowling
amazing.
knowledge, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's someone that truly deserves the title of king. That's what he's called in Australia, and
Yeah,
there will never be anyone like him.
Never.
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 No.
And that's the thing. Murli might have the maximum number of wickets, but I mean, if you ask me, the greatest ever is Shane Warne, like
Yeah.
without a
In terms of
doubt.
street cred, I think. I mean, Murli. I mean, let's not disrespect Murli's achievements,
Yeah.
but again, I mean, you take a poll with
Yeah,
cricketers or fans, and you say Shane Warne is like head and shoulders ahead of Murli, even though Murli kind of spun the ball more
Yeah,
degrees, but he had a free calm action, etc. This was Shane Warne was all pure, all classic. Like Shane Warne
yeah,
is something that
Classic
you can
lexicon. Yeah.
actually try and replicate. Murli is a freak of nature. He-
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that you cannot say. You cannot teach somebody to bowl like Murli, but Shane Warne you can. And
yeah.
despite the fact that you can teach, and there are many people who are bowling leg spin, and they still can't match up to Shane Warne, really sums up how great Shane Warne was.
So, I mean, I'm sure all of you have stories about that, but we all used to copy bowling actions, right? When, like, my bowling
Yeah,
action when I'm bowling spin is Shane
Shane
Warne's
Warne, yes,
that one, and that's my bowling action as
yes.
a spinner. Whenever I
Yes.
didn't want to run, I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's too
the
hot in India, right? So nobody wants to run chain one and perfected the
that's
art of
the
not
run up
running.
No,
with
it's a
the sleeve up, with the
I,
sleeve up all the time before he bowled.
yeah. No, he was an entertainer at his
yeah.
core, right? Like
He was
a,
definitely
a
an entertainer.
whole persona was like as a sports person and as an entertainer, and he did that to the best that I know of.
By the
Yeah.
way, do you guys remember the series that the Sachin Demolition series? There was big time news. I remember that in newspapers that time, where Shane Warne is coming to India, and he's got a special menu,
Baked beans and
baked beans.
spaghetti.
You
Yes,
remember that?
yes, I
You
remember.
remember?
I remember.
Which
So
one?
Shane Warne,
Which
an
series?
Australian team,
Okay,
uh,
1998, the
98.
Australian
Oh, okay.
team comes after a gap of what, 10 years? A very long gap, anyway. So,
Yeah, after 12 years coming to India. Yeah.
okay, 12 years. And none of the existing generation of cricketers had toured in the past. Not
Mm-hmm.
even for like 96 World Cup was probably one of the aberrations, right?
Yeah,
Final
yeah.
Frontier.
Yeah, and then there was this big hype about this Sachin versus
16
Vaughan.
on
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
16 games on trot. Australia was that was the final frontier for
yes, the
Steve
final
Waugh.
front. Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of hype about it. And I remember, like, I was like looking for, like, every I was a teenager back then. And then you're programmed to hate everyone that plays India. And then here comes in this pantomime villain with this, this blonde hair, little chubby little guy, and say, oh, you know, uh, there was talk that might not even make the trip, but he eventually
Yeah.
made the trip because he was convinced that he would get Delhi belly, or I don't know, the food was really horrible, or he didn't like Indian food. I
Yeah,
don't know what it was. There were a lot of
yeah,
rumors
yeah,
going on,
yeah.
and then comes news that one of the conditions of him coming over was that he would only go if he was able to take along baked beans and spaghetti, cans of baked beans and spaghetti.
Cans of baked beans and
And I
spaghetti.
had no idea what spaghetti was back then.
Actually, baked beans probably was introduced to India through Shane Warne. Like,
Yes.
so
That's
many
fun.
of us who had no idea what baked beans was. So,
And I
Yeah.
was so upset, like, who the fuck are you to come and say that my food is not good enough for you? Fuck off. And
Yeah.
but this is a 13-year-old me, right? So I was like getting a bit
Yeah.
emotional about it. But yeah, I remember this. I can't forget that.
That's
yeah,
funny. That's funny. Yeah, man. No, it's a you're right. Like you said, Amal, at the beginning, like remember exactly where you were when you heard it. And I don't think like at least in the next day or two it's still gonna settle, Like I still find myself any free time I have just reading something about him or watching his old videos. So I think it'll still take some time for the whole cricketing world to just like digest
yeah.
this loss. So
Do we know who Australia is playing this year, at the end of this year?
end of this year?
Because they always have a home
Mm,
series, right?
would it be India?
No, can't be India. Can't be so many times now. But
Don't they
uh,
don't they
but
play every Oh no, Australia is going to India. They're playing in
Australia goes
India.
to India. But this year's Boxing Day Test match is going to be. I mean, if you get emotional, then probably don't watch the Boxing Day Test match of this year, because Shane Warne is from Melbourne, and
Mm,
there is. Actually, you know what? I hope that there is a celebration that Boxing Day Test. They have already renamed the stand of
yeah.
the MCG after Shane Warne, but yeah, I mean, he
He's
deserves
got a
some.
statue. I mean, whatever you do is just less, right? It's like I don't know if he's got the highest honor like Sachin has got the Bharat Ratna for
Yeah.
India, but Yeah, I
I
think
mean, posthumously, they should award him the knighthood. I mean, all these
Yeah,
honors
Hall of
will follow. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think the World Cups is in Australia at the end of the year.
the World Cup is in Australia. Yeah, yeah, true.
Man, I'm gonna miss his commentary, man. I really am gonna miss it. Like,
Yeah,
that
and
was one voice you wanted to always tune in. Okay, what is this guy saying, right?
Yeah,
that's something we enjoyed this time last year when India went over, and he was all over the place because
yeah.
because Nathan Lyon didn't have a good series, and he was
Mhm.
constantly on Nathan Lyon
And
saying, "Do this, do that."
he's always been
He,
against
he,
Nathan Lyon.
he even talked about Manas Labuschagne, right? Like, why the heck is he moving so much, right? Like, why is he making those
Oh yeah,
sounds?
yeah,
And like,
yeah,
he was not the one to hold back, right?
Yeah,
So,
he was irritated by something that was not classical. Is like he annoyed.
yeah. I want him to cut those
ah,
off
ah, ah.
camera or something.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Shenwan. I mean, thank you and rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you and
you.
rest in peace indeed.
Yeah. Hope. I wish we were able to have, a lot of him. But I mean, there's enough on the internet. There's enough material. I guess that's what we have to just, you know, make do with now going forward.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody who's going to be like him ever,
No.
ever. So,
No.
I mean, I can't think of anyone that I want to like, revere, follow, like a spinner that you wanted to follow. I just don't see anyone now.
There are only two bowlers who struck fear in my heart for the Indian batsmen on behalf of Indian batsmen. One is Shoaib Akhtar because we had
Yeah,
never seen anyone like him when he burst on the scene,
yeah,
and Shane Warne. Like when they came, a wicket was just around the corner, and the batsman knew it.